Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to All Access Pass from Home. I am your virtual host, Jason, and so good to see you guys. It's been a minute. We haven't done one of these for a little bit, and we knew it was high time to start reaching out and touching base with your favorite artists out there. Now, I know we have multiple different crowds watching this one. Whenever we get an artist or a band who really, they're not to be pigeonholed into one cruise. Some of these artists and bands are just so fantastic that they really spread out and touch multiple different genres, multiple different styles. And today I've got Mr. Kenny Copeland with us. He, of course, is from Rose Royce. Kenny, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Absolutely.
Well, watching with this undoubtedly is going to be the Soul Train cruise and also the Disco cruise, two cruises that you and your band have been with us on before and are planned to be with us on here as soon as we are blessed to get back to cruising. But undoubtedly, we get a breadth of guests, of folks from other cruises, other genres that tune in to catch these. So hopefully we can get a whole bunch of new fans and new folks that maybe don't know that much about Rose Royce to go along with the diehard fans that have known you guys and loved you guys and followed you for, man, I hate to say it, but you're going on about 50 years.
Yeah, we getting on up there.
So let me first and foremost give you the acknowledgement and the props that you're due. You are not just a member of Rose Royce, you're a founding member of the band. You've been there from the very, very beginning.
Very, very beginning. That's from the start, starting from high school.
From high school. So before we get too deep into who Rose Royce is, tell us a little bit about high school and how does this group come together? Because it's it was eight guys, right? In the beginning, 7, 8 guys in the beginning.
Yeah, it's 8 of us in the very beginning, and we all started out at high school. 4 of us graduated from the same high school, and 3 of us lived on the same street. We actually
wow.
Yeah, we actually grew up together. So we were friends before we even got into the music business.
And just lucky enough that all of you guys were talented too.
Yeah. That's funny because at that time, the guys really didn't know what instrument they wanted to play. So I just automatically, I said, well, I want to play trumpet. The other guys said, well, I want to be a drummer. And the other guys said, well, I want to be a trumpet player too. And we just threw it out there. Then we started to pursue what we wanted to do. We started taking lessons, private lessons for our craft, and everything just started merging. We started playing in the high school bands, the elementary bands, and it just started to grow. There's mushroom.
And what did the parents think? A bunch of boys that have grown up together that are buddies on the neighborhood street there all of a sudden decide that they're going to start taking musical lessons and play instruments. And obviously there's always a little cost that comes with that. What are the parents supportive, or are the parents telling you to find a real job? How are the parents at this time?
Well, at that time, they were a little, well, what are you guys doing? You got to go to college. What about the college? You got to get a job. And we say, yeah, we want to do that too, but we want to be entertainers and artists and musicians. And then they kind of discouraged us a little bit by saying that, that's a very competitive field. They got many, many musicians. They never really make it. And one thing that I used to tell them, and they would back off and wouldn't say anything else. They say, well, suppose you don't make it. I said, well, I'm just going to die trying. When I say those 2 words, then they said, okay, well, he's serious.
Yeah,
he's saying he's going to die trying. But I really meant it. And so that's what happened. And I told all of the guys who was in the group, I said, listen, if this is not your goal, you might as well dismiss yourself now. Yeah. Because I just want to surround my people with the same attitude, the same feeling. And everybody was on the same page. They said, listen, this is what we want to do.
So, pardon my interruption. What made you so passionate at that young age? What made you so passionate and so sure to be able to say, well, I'll die trying, and mean that?
Well, yeah, growing up, I've seen a lot of people that did not pursue their goals. And I always said to myself, I'm not going to be that person. No matter how much that they failed I would always say, I'm not failing. And everybody's, how can you be so sure? I'm just not going to do it. And I think when you have that strong passion like that, it opens up this type of vibe that you can just bust through any doors, bust through any obstacles. And that's the way we felt. And we just kept going. But I mean, when people would be outside playing, kickball or basketball or whatever, I would be inside the house in my own world practicing on my trumpet. I would visualize myself playing for hundreds of thousands of people, and I was the only person in the room. You know what I mean? That's how passionate I was. And I think that's why the guys actually chose me as being the leader of the band. And they said, Kenny, it's like I started out being the leader of the band. I'm saying, I'm just not a follower.
You were whooping butt from the beginning. Yeah,
from the very beginning. So they just trusted my judgment. And no matter what happened, I would say, don't worry about it. We just, if we go one way and it doesn't work out, we just go the other way. You know what I mean? I would not accept defeat. I wouldn't accept it.
That's one of the few surefire ways towards success, at least, right? I feel like people get easily thwarted. You come up against an obstacle and people go, and you decide how serious you were or are about whatever it is you're pursuing. To have the mindset or the attitude, especially as, forgive the term, as a kid at the time, as a young man at the time, to have the perseverance and the drive to know that they're just obstacles and to be able to push through them.
Absolutely. And I tell anyone, if you're not passionate for what you want to do, don't even waste your own time. Do something that you're passionate about. And we were very passionate about what we wanted to do. Of course, like everyone else, we had the idols that we looked up to. I would say Cool in the Game was one of them. I used to I told Cool a couple of times, I said, you know what, man, during the early days, I believe we played your music better than you did.
I'm sure I'm sure he was very receptive.
Because at that time, the singers, if you were a singing group, it seems as though the singers got all the recognition. Yeah. We were more musicians. So what happened, we would play our trumpets and saxophones and that sort of thing like a singer would sing, because we wanted the same kind of recognition. So, and Cool in the Game, that's one of the reasons we looked up to Cool in the Game. And if you look at some of the earlier songs, that's what they would do. So that, I say they are still one of my idols.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Oh, absolutely.
And you've obviously, since then you've obviously been able to perform with them, or tour with them, or travel with them. So I mean, you guys have become. What's it like as a young man? You started idolizing them or enjoying them or looking up to them as a kid. What's it like when you finally meet them for the first time?
Oh man, it's like Santa Claus. Man, it's just, man, these are the people that we looked up to, and now we're in front of them and we're talking to them. It's like a dream come true. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it was very, very exciting. And all of my guys, everybody that we met, we looked up to, because, you hear these guys on the radio, you see them on television, and to be in their presence, it's just undescribable exciting.
I have the same thing all the time on these cruises, on these musical cruises we do. So I've said from the beginning, and I've been in cruising and doing charters for about 15, 16 years. And from the beginning, one of my favorite things, and I try to say this as often as possible to people, is there's nothing like seeing the person sing the song that sang the song.
Exactly.
Performed, sang as a loose term. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
September done by, when you hear Car Wash done by, it blows you away to see it done.
Right. You can match the face with this. Here's the person that actually sung that. Absolutely. That is exciting. That's very exciting.
Tremendously. So walk with me a little bit. You guys are you're young guys. You're starting out. You're figuring out. You're taking your lessons. You're starting to kind of figure it out. You're the de facto leader. You're taking control of things. At what point, at what age, not just When does the talent match the desire? If that question makes sense. When do you guys realize it's one thing to think we're going to do it? It's another thing to recognize maybe we can actually do this.
Yeah,
When
you
does
know,
that start to-
what was funny, we at first, you know, we started to get a little anxiety because we would enter these, what you call these high school contests.
Sure.
They had one thing called like the sound search, and
Yeah.
all the high school bands and everybody who was good from each band, they would have this big concert. But the problem was we actually lost most of our contests. And we said, now, wait a minute, I know we sound good. Why are we losing? But in retrospect, what happened was all of those people who won never achieved the success
Yeah.
that we did later on. So I believe something was better was waiting for us later. Now we lost the high school shows and the contests, but then again we got a hit record. And the people who won the contests never got a hit record. So I
I'm
think
sure
that
you'll trade a couple of high school trophies for some,
yeah, you know
for
what
50
I mean? So,
years of success.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. And I knew I never, although we were defeated in some areas, I never felt that we weren't good.
Sure.
I knew we were good. You know, it's just a matter of getting exposed. And that's why I told the guys, I said, don't worry about it. Let's just keep going.
And this is Los Angeles area,
Yes,
correct?
Los Angeles,
Okay.
South Central.
South Central, to be specific.
Absolutely.
And you guys, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, but you guys weren't, to your point, you didn't have vocalists in the beginning, so you were more of a, you were an instrumental band in every way, shape, or form.
Yes, we were. We were strictly instrumental. We didn't have any vocalists. Now, they noticed that I would always sing a little bit. They know that I always had the potential that I would.
There goes Kenny again.
Yeah, there goes Kenny. So Kenny sounds a little bit like Eddie Kendricks, a little Philip Bailey, you know, that with that falsetto voice.
Yeah.
So they knew, but I never really pursued it until it was time to do that Car Wash album, and the producer say, "Nah, you have no choice. You have to do it."
Well, and actually, let's do a little skip forward in there. So you guys were introduced to Whitfield, right? You were introduced into Whitfield in there, and he was breaking from Motown, if I'm not mistaken, and creating his own label. Is that correct?
Well, let me rewind a little bit.
Please.
We first met Edwin Starr, who did War. That's the guy who introduced us to Norman Whitfield. So we became Edwin Starr's backing band.
Okay.
And he actually is the one who actually exposed us to the professional business of music. Got it. And we found out that Norman Whitfield produced War and Stop the War on him. So we always tell him, we'd like to meet this guy. We would like to meet this guy. And Edwin said, well, in time you will. So finally, Norman Whitfield, he didn't meet us at a concert. He literally came down to one of our rehearsals. And he came to one of our rehearsals and he said, you know, I think I can use one of you guys in some of my recording sessions. So from that point, we started going up to Motown while he was doing like the Temptations and that. And he actually, he put us on a couple of the tunes playing our instruments. And the good part about it, he really took a strong liking to us because even when we played with Edwin Starr, he would always show up. He would show up all the time. And then one day he asked us, he said, you know what? Do you guys always want to be a backing band? And we say, absolutely not. We want to be on the front line. We want to be on the front line at some point. He said, okay, well, just keep doing what you're doing. When an opportunity comes, I'll come back at you guys. And that's exactly what happened, you know.
And is that how Gwen got in the group, or Rose got in?
Well, once Norman took a liking to us, and we really wasn't singing with Edwin Starr anymore. We were just a band, and he said that, you know what? In order to finish the puzzle, I think you guys need a singer. You know, he said Kenny can sing too, but he plays trumpet too. But we need another singer. So he said, what do you guys want? Would you like a male or would you like a female?
And you guys are all guys, right?
Yeah, we was all guys. So he said, well, I'm already the male, so let's just deal with a female. So we put out a national hunt for the female singer, and I believe Joe Harris of the Undisputed Truth introduced us to Gwen Dickey, who at that time was in Biloxi, Mississippi. And he said, okay, this is it. Let's start recording. And that's how that came about.
And then it's not too long after this, right, that Car Wash comes to be. I mean,
yeah, you know what happened was we were actually in the working on our studio album. We had done about maybe 3 or 4 songs, and then Norman came up and said, "Listen, I have an opportunity to do a soundtrack called Car Wash." So we said, "Well, man, let's finish our album first." I said, "No." He said, "No, if we're gonna do this, we have to do this now." So for a moment, we thought that we were going backwards. I said, "We're gonna stop our studio album." He said, "Listen, if this opportunity doesn't come," and he said, "Furthermore, they're trusting my judgment to use an unknown artist."
Yeah.
And in case you didn't know, they wanted Smokey Robinson to sing "I Want to Get Next to You." They wanted somebody else to do that, and then Norman convinced Universal that, "Listen, I got these young guys. They hungry. Trust me. You know what I can do as a producer. Trust my judgment. I want them to do the soundtrack." So they gave him the okay.
Wow.
And then we went in the studio, and I can honestly say, I think out of my entire career, that was the most difficult double album set that I've ever done in my life. It literally took us about 7 or 8 months because we did all the scene music, every piece of music was done by us. And it was very, very difficult. But of course, the rewards.
Yeah, right. I mean, won every award in the book, sold a gajillion copies.
Yeah, and that was at the time where when you did an album, there were real string players, there was no drum machines, I mean,
real
everybody
musicians.
had to really play.
Real musicians. Yeah.
Real musicians.
It's and I'm gonna sidecar into that. I want to get back, but actually, since you kind of said that, how do you? It's a loaded question, so be kind to it. How do you view music today? You've got a lot of folks that one person can sit in their living room and on a computer can create an entire song, top to bottom, can create 4 or 5 different voices from their own voice, can track the whole thing, and then can release it on YouTube and get 10 million hits overnight. An artist can create something now in a second. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good or bad, but they can create in a second. And in talking to a lot of artists, I feel like there's one side of the camp that's very much, it's fantastic. We love that it gives people opportunities that we never had. And then there's another side of the camp that says, but at the same time, we worked so hard, it taught us something different. We didn't have that overnight success. How do you view music today, and not specific artists, but just in general?
Well, today is totally different than 30, 40 years ago. 30, 40 years ago, you had to really learn your instrument.
Yeah.
Today, because of the technology has progressed so much that you really don't have to be a great singer to make a hit record. You really don't have to be a great producer to make a hit record, because a lot of the technology has taken over. And that's why a lot of the younger generation can, like you said, can go in their room and fork out an album and sell as many records as we did, back in the early days. I think it's just a changing of the guard. It's just a new way of doing things. I mean, if I was born in 1985 or something like that, of course I would be doing the same thing. I mean, we've done shows around the country where some of the younger generation didn't even know what a saxophone or a trumpet is. They know what a turntable is. Okay.
Sure, yeah.
But they didn't know. Yeah. So the bottom line, the bottom line is just, you have to just accept what comes to you. This just is the new world. So you have to adapt. And anyone that have a problem adapting is just going to get left behind. You have to accept it, because that's just the way things are now. You have to accept that, and things are never going to go behind.
Yeah.
And they got some artists that are bitter. They are bitter behind that. A lot of jazz musicians I know, they say, "Man, them guys can't really play." So wait a minute, it is what it is. So if you can just adapt and actually, rather than trying to put these guys down, learn what am I. At one point, I hung around Dr. Dre for a while when Jerry Heller, my ex-manager,
Mm-hmm.
was alive. And Dre always had a lot of respect for me, but I always had a lot of respect for him because to me, he's still a super talented guy, always have been. But the fact of the matter is that when I went in the studio with Michelle and all those guys, I had to face, I said, Kenny, this is a new day. So now you can learn from these young people,
Yeah.
and then they can learn from you. And they do have a certain amount of respect, but you have to be able to adapt. If you can't adapt, then you're going to end up just stand behind. So that's what you have to do. So I don't have a
Great
problem with
message.
it. I know a lot of my friends have had problems with it, but
Yeah.
as time goes on, they end up adapting as well because really you have no
Yeah, I was
choice.
gonna say, not a lot of option. At some point, you got to get on or get out. Like, there's
You
not a
have to
lot.
get on and get out. You know what I mean? That's just the bottom line. That's called progress.
Amen. All right. Well, let's take a step back then to Car Wash. The song, the song specifically, of course, the album as a whole. Talk to us a little bit. You said it was one of the hardest the most difficult process you've ever been through because of the mastery around it, and I'm sure the level of perfection that you guys were trying to put into it and that was being asked of you at the same time. Tell us a little bit about, did you know it was a hit? Did you know what you guys were creating at the
Well,
time? Was it apparent or?
well, the funny part about it, myself and my drummer Henry Garner, we used to work at a car wash. So so
So you were
so
drawing on experience.
yeah, so we actually worked at a car wash. So when the word car wash came up, we couldn't conceive how interested would people be in a car
Yeah.
wash. I mean, I remember working at a car wash making $1.35 an hour. You know what I mean? And how can they do
Big
that?
bucks.
Yeah, but this is what they wanted to name the movie, and so I said, well, I don't know how it's gonna go, but I'm gonna put my all in all into the song, and so when we started, when Norman Whitfield and us, when we got together, we started thinking about the sounds that you would hear when you go to a car wash. You know what I mean? So we started
Yeah.
incorporating the sounds in our mind. And then one person came up with the hand clap. Then another person came up with this. So all the creative juices was flowing right then. And it took us about maybe about 3 or 4 weeks before Norman and us say, hey, this is it. Because when something is it, everything feels good. And that's when we say, hey man, this is it. Let's roll with this. And we all start putting our 2 cents in, and that's how we came up with the song.
And did it, I know you say you knew that this was it in terms of that was the song, but did you have any concept of what that song was going to be or the album was going to be?
We had no concept at that time. We were just trying to, well, one concept we did have, since we were doing the soundtrack, we wanted to make sure that the soundtrack stood on its own 2 feet in case the movie was a flop.
Just in case the movie sucks, still buy the album.
The movie sucks, they're gonna like the soundtrack. So we don't have any control. We're not actors, so we don't have any control of what they do, but we do have control over the music. So we said, let's put our all it on into this music. So if the music, if the soundtrack, I mean the video,
Yeah. The movie.
flop, then the soundtrack would stand on its own 2 feet. Fortunately, both of them was big success.
Yeah. When do you remember when you first heard it or experienced it commercially? I mean, not going to the movie, but the song, the music. Did you hear it on the
Well, when I
radio?
first, what happened was, I never forget. I was driving this, I think this is '67 or '68 convertible Mustang.
Ooh, okay.
It wasn't all in good shape, but I would tell all my friends, hey man, we got this song coming out called Car Wash. It's gonna be this. So they looked at me and they looked at the car and they said, yeah, okay,
Clearly.
Kenny, yeah, okay, Kenny, you and your car wash. You know what I mean? And sure enough, about 6 weeks later, we heard it for the first time. And I don't know who was in the car with me, but I literally pulled over and just sat there and just listened to the song in its entirety. And at that time, I really can't describe it, but you get this kind of rush, like, man, what all this hard work is actually have came true now. I
Yeah.
mean, on the radio like everybody else. And that was, I can't describe that feeling. It gives you these butterflies inside, man, it's just hard to explain, you know?
Especially if it's something that you've worked that hard for and something that you've had as a goal for that long and you've been that driven for, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it
hard
was,
to, it's got to be hard to really, I mean, even, total up what, sum up what that payoff is, not financially, but just the payoff of the success of that and seeing people
oh,
vibe
yeah,
to
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Especially all the hours and the time that we put in the studio. And but I tell you that they must have played that song on every station.
to death.
I can turn on different station car washers on. I turn this to car washers on. I mean, the Universal, and they went to bat. The motor started flowing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, every few minutes that song was on, and
Did you,
that's
I
when I
didn't,
felt like we're stars. We stars now. We
that's
felt.
awesome. That's what I was just going to ask you. Is that the moment when you guys kind of went, okay, here we
Yeah,
are?
we felt like we were stars then. Felt like
That's
we were stars.
amazing.
Now, for like I say, for the first half of the year, we still driving the Mustangs and stuff like that. The money part hadn't caught up with the fame yet.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It hadn't caught up, but eventually it did. Eventually it did.
Do you remember the first thing that you bought? You remember what was the first thing you splurged on when you were like, "Ooh, we made it"?
At that time, I always wanted. We had been wearing so much fake jewelry that I said to myself, now when this movie come out and this song, I get my first royalty, I got to go buy me some real jewelry, some real earrings, some real
You got to
this.
get a real chain. You can't have
Yeah,
it turn your neck green.
well, we were dressed up like, I don't know if you remember Mr. T, but
Of course, come
all that.
on.
I mean, we had all that. We just started buying that kind of stuff, and then the normal toys, the cars, and the
Sure.
this, that. And I remember one time I put Mr. Gold on my license plates. I had like what you call this. I
The
think it was a
vanity
Cadillac
plates.
Seville, and I had this gold. But the gold, Mr. Gold was representing my first gold record. But for some reason, I had my windows tinted. I got stopped quite a few times by the police, and they say, "Well, this Mr. Gold, you driving down Sunset Boulevard, you got all of this gold on, you in this Cadillac. What do you do?" I said, "I'm an entertainer." You know what I mean? And I literally would keep an album in my trunk, and I would have to show it to them, and they said, "Oh, okay, you really are." He said, "You might want to change that license plate, that Mr." So then I changed the license plate to Mr. I changed to Captain Gold. So I was, instead of Mr. Gold, I was the Captain Gold.
You graduated. Yeah, you gave yourself a promotion
Yeah,
up to the stripes.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And actually,
So
you guys, am I correct in understanding that the name Rose Royce was actually kind of built around you had Gwen, but also car wash, the whole night. You're trying to tie it together, right? You changed names
yeah,
around.
exactly. Well, how that came about, we wanted to think of something classy.
A
So being
Rolls
that we did
Royce.
have a female in the group, we say, well, what can we? Okay, a flower kind of represents a female, and then we took the end of what's the most classiest car,
The
a
Rolls
Rolls.
Royce, baby.
So we took the end of that and we put those two together and we kind of marinated on it, and that's what we came up with. The only downside is that on our second album, Warner Brothers ended up using the Rolls Royce emblem, and they had to pull back. So Rolls Royce company said, no, 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 you can't use our emblem. You can do everything else. So they had to pull back hundreds of thousands of albums and put the
Ooh.
flower there, and it was still a success though. That's the
Trademark
only.
and copyright, yeah.
Oh yeah, we didn't want to get into that.
Yeah, you don't want to get into that with Rolls Royce.
No, not at all. We didn't want to have that problem. But
Well,
that's pretty much how we came up with the name.
And Gwen performed as Rose, right? Is that her
Well,
stage name was
no, it
Rose?
was always a misunderstanding with that.
Okay,
What it is, she had a contractual with another manager in one of the cities in Norman. Say, well, I tell you what, put Rose Norwalk, Dickey, and what happened was we only did that for a short period of time,
got it.
and then we eliminated that because we didn't want to confuse the public thinking that she's Rose and we're Royce. So
Yeah,
we
yeah.
squashed that. So we squashed that real quickly. We did it for about a year and then we squashed it. But that was the only reason that it appeared to be that way.
What makes that 70s, the 70s sound, the funk R&B, it's a unique sound, and it's a sound that is still today, 40, 50 years later, so popular. What is it about that 70s R&B funk? What is it about that sound?
Well, just like we were talking about earlier, back at that particular time, there was no drum machines. Everybody had to really play an instrument.
Yeah.
So all of those songs, I mean, from George Clinton and all those people, all those guys played. We went on tour with them all the way too. So I think that sound of having the real instruments created that era. And that's why I believe that years later, a lot of the rappers and other people would go back and sample a lot of those things, because I think it's one of a kind. The 70s will never be able to be duplicated unless you're gonna go back and play everything for real and don't use anything that's not real. And I think we created that, and I can thank the rappers for keeping it alive. Because even Dre, a couple of times when I was in the studio with him, he would pull out one of his records and he would take a segment and say, Kenny, you know what this is? I said, man, that's from Car Wash. He said, yeah, I know that's from Car Wash. This one I'm going to use. You know what I mean? So that was kind of an honor. I was never annoyed about them going back sampling things, as long as you pay the writers who have wrote the song. But I was never annoyed by that. It was an honor, and it's still an honor. Even James Brown, the king of funk. I mean, his stuff, and that's another one of our idols, James Brown.
Yeah,
but his music, man, So I was never annoyed by that, and I think that's in the 70s. That's the reason why that was created, by playing those real instruments, and it created the funk and whatever. And the songs, of course, was those songs back in the 70s they'll go on forever. And that's one thing we learned from Norman: make songs, good songs. Because if you got a good song, no matter what generation it is, they're going to love it. And as you know, we've had a lot of our songs redone by some prominent artists.
Oh, yeah. Mary J. Blige, Beyonce, Seal, I mean, on down the list,
Yeah, right. So if those songs weren't good, I don't think they would have recorded them. You know what I mean? So we did it. I think we did a good job.
It's a testament, right? And I feel like you have a lot of, the sheer number of samples that have come from that 70s era, from that funk R&B era,
Absolutely.
It's astronomical. And I feel like even it's, you hear it. I grew up on that music. I grew up on music that's, it's before my time, but I grew up on it, just via the radio and whatnot. And I will hear it in modern songs, and it's almost sad because I wish other people understood that, no, that's not that person's song. I know you're not going to get mad about it, but there's got to be times where an artist goes, at least say my name, like give me something.
I don't know if we did it on the last Soul Train show we were on, but there's a segment in our show. I take a little time out and I educate the young people.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, I want all the young folks know, in case you didn't, this song, Wishing on a Star, this song, Going Down, this was done by the OGs, Rose Royce. I just want y'all, in case you didn't know. And a lot of times people would say, wow, I didn't know, especially the younger generation. So I put that in our show all the time, and I get a big response from it. You know what I mean? I just to educate them in case
Well,
they did.
sure.
Yeah,
Well,
I
sure.
would have.
Especially if you're taking songs that people love and you're educating them and going, listen, you know, so and so did, Beyonce did a great job with this, but let's not
Exactly.
forget that where that came from. So let's not forget.
Exactly. You got to let them know where it came from because you know if you don't, they'll have this
Yeah.
misconceived idea that
Yeah.
hey, maybe there's a no. This is the way it goes. So that's the reason why I do that.
Now, as you guys have hit your stride. Obviously, you're now Rose Royce. Everybody knows who you are. Car Wash has exploded. You're touring. You're traveling around. Where are your favorite places to go? What are your favorite cities or tour stops?
Oh man, you know, that's a hard question. I have so many. But what sticks out is when I went over to when we did Australia and Sydney.
Nice.
The vibe over there was just so wonderful. Although I didn't like the 15-hour plane flight, but
It's a long flight, man. Ooh, it's a
but I
long
love
flight.
the vibe over there. When I mean, the people were very nice and playing over there, they were very receptive, and that's one of my favorite places that I enjoy going. We don't go as often as I would
Sure.
like, but that sticks out. That rings a bell. Australia, Sydney, and all those places over there.
Do you
It was
remember any
fun.
of the craziest fans? I mean, did you go
Well,
anywhere where you guys like I asked I was talking with the Jacksons, and the Jacksons were saying when we got off the plane in, you know, we didn't we're the Jacksons, and even we didn't expect that. I mean, Rose Royce, you guys had to have gotten off the plane a couple of times and gone,
yeah,
what?
yeah. They roll out the red carpet, but what I would like to say is that the most scariest part is we did a concert in Birmingham, England, and as we were playing, about 30 minutes into the show, the audience literally rushed the stage, and we had to stop the show. So we ran off of the stage and we got onto the bus. When we look back, the people, because the hotel wasn't very far, they literally came. You're talking about hundreds of people really follow us all the way to the hotel. And I always wanted to feel like and see what it felt like to be mobbed. But
Yeah.
after it actually happened, it was scary because these
You don't need
people,
that anymore.
they got all in the hotel. The hotel manager had to pull a fire drill. The police came. It was that scary. I mean, and when you looked at these people, they just want to just touch any part
Yeah.
of you. And I say, man, is this what it's like? I don't really like this. But they were just super, super excited fans. You
That's,
know,
I mean,
that
it's a
was scary.
testament, right? I mean,
Oh, that was scary. That was
it may
scary.
be, I was going to say it was expressed in a scary way, but it's a testament, right? It's a
Yeah,
testament
yeah, yeah.
to the
Now then
impact that you guys have.
I start thinking about this is what Michael Jackson, all those guys go through.
Yeah. They were, I talked to, I had Marlon, I had Jackie, and I had Tito, and we were talking about it on doing a chat just like you and I are doing right now. And they were
Wow.
telling stories exactly like it. And they were, Tito got cornered on top of a car and they tipped the car over to try to get to him. You know, Michael was wearing a scarf at one point, and the people were grabbing the scarf so tight they almost choked him because everyone, like multiple people, grabbed the scarf, started pulling it. So exactly to your point, I mean, it's no different than what you're describing. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. Because I think one of the fans ended up picking Gwen up off the stage, just literally lifting her up. At that time, we had a couple of big security guys. So
you have to.
the
Right?
funny part about it, when the security guys ran on the stage, they set her down and jumped back into the audience as if they was jumping into a swimming pool. So these guys were like 6'8", 6'9", 300 or something pounds.
Gotta
And
have big boys.
so they didn't have any problems, but it was kind of scary. But we laughed about it later on, you know what I mean? And it happened a few times, but that was the scariest time.
So let's fast forward to modern times, if you will. Tell us a little bit about Rose Royce now. Tell us a little bit about the band you have and what kind of, how many dates do you guys do a year?
Well, before the pandemic hit, we were right around 25, I would say closer to 30
That's
per
solid.
year. So and especially in the last 5 years, I mean, shows, I mean, between festivals
Yeah.
and let me say before I go any further, out of all the shows that got postponed, the one that have hurt the guys the most, where they literally wanted to cry, was Soul Train and the
Mm.
Disco Cruise.
The cruises, man,
Now,
it's a different
they
world.
wanted to cry. I thought I had to console them when they when they say we're not going to do it. Out of all the shows,
Me too.
I'm gonna tell you something. We out of all the shows we've done, we enjoyed the Soul Train and the Disco the most. I mean,
Oh,
that
that's
is
wonderful.
our favorite time, man. We look forward to that than anything else. But
Our guests
currently,
feel the same about you. So
we love that. But currently, like I said, we were doing 25 to 30 shows a year, and when that stopped, we kind of between United States and Europe, we would
Europe.
go and do tours over in Europe 2 or 3 weeks, and then the United States. So we kind of enjoyed that.
You guys have maintained a decent following in Europe, and I forgive that phrasing. I mean, I'm just referencing the fact that car washes late '70s. That pandemonium hit, and you guys have been really well received. And in Europe specifically, you guys have maintained pretty good momentum.
Absolutely, absolutely. The fans over there are wonderful. The only thing that I had to get used to, I don't know if this is the way they do it, but no matter what you do during the show, it's quiet. But at the end of the show,
Yeah.
they give you a big standing ovation. So sometimes you say, well, are they happy or not? But they show their appreciation at the end of the show, but not during the show. I had to get used to that.
Crowds are a unique thing, right? People ask all the time about the difference between different cruises and different crowds. And I mean, you've performed all over the world for different colors and cultures. And, people will ask about what it's like with a British audience or an Australian audience or an American audience or a white audience or a black audience or this or that. And it really, every audience is kind of its own organism. They respond and react very differently. And it doesn't mean they do or don't like something as much. To your point,
Yeah,
they can be
that's true.
very quiet.
That's
But
very
then
true.
they erupt in the end.
Exactly. Especially when we play in Japan, because you figure if we
Yes.
play in Japan, they like good songs. A lot of them really can't speak English, but they can sing every word note for note.
Flawlessly.
When
Yeah.
you come off the stage, they really can't understand what you're saying, but they know all of those songs. So that I had to get used to that as well. But they are a great audience too. I mean, and they love rhythm and R&B music,
Yes.
because I went to see a few cover bands while I was over there, and those bands, boy, those guys can play, and they were playing all the '70s funk and all of that stuff very well, and it was all Japanese. You know what I mean? So
We have one guest on Soul Train that comes every year from Japan.
really,
He comes every year all the way from Japan for Soul Train cruise because he just loves it with all his heart. He loves it.
oh man, yeah, they're very receptive people.
Now, we were just kind of chatting before we signed on and actually logged on officially here. We were chatting off the record, and you were talking about doing a couple of. You guys are starting. Obviously, we've been through all the social distancing, the pandemic. We've been, everyone's sequestered to their homes, but you guys have started to perform a little bit. Tell us a little bit about what it's like now. You were talking about a concert with virtual audience.
Yes,
And then,
yes, we did a concert in Virginia Beach a few weeks ago. They because of the pandemic, they couldn't have any. Rather than canceling the show, they came up with the idea to do a virtual show, and we were in this auditorium, and we did a full, literally about 80 minutes, and it wasn't one person in the audience. So I told everybody, just mentally get ready and just pretend like it's a lot of people in the audience. And that's what we did. I mean, we went out there and I was saying, how you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And you didn't hear any sound, any feedback, but we just kept going. And what's funny is after the show, the producer said, you know what? The energy you guys had out there with no audience is amazing. I say, I prepared my people for that. They already knew. I said, we're gonna do everything we do, and they were very pleased. So we did that show, and then we did one show out here in California at a casino where it was outside. It was like a 1,200 seater, but they cut it down to 500, and they exercised the social distancing, and that ended up being very nice too. But when I saw the audience, I can tell that they really missed entertainment. They really missed it, you know what I mean? And then we got a standing ovation. We did very well. And so I think when everything gets back to being normal, I think the groups are going to have a good time. It's not going to have any problem with ticket sales or anything else, because people want to out. You know, you can only stay in your house and watch the movie for so long, you know what I mean? And then you need some diversion, you know what I mean?
Something. Anything.
You and I was talking about that earlier.
Yeah. Anything. At some point, you just need anything.
Right.
I think talking about what you're talking about in terms of the energy from an audience and the reception from a group or an artist, I think it is. Oftentimes, I don't know that people flip around and understand that as an artist on stage, you feed off of that. It's not just them. It's a two-way street. And I try to tell audiences all the time, an absolute fact, the louder you are, the more fun you're having. The band, the artist, they hear you, they love that, and you're probably going to get a bigger show out of them. It's an interesting, it's a give and take.
Well, not to cut you off.
No, please.
My attitude is when we go on stage, I feel like, okay, we are getting ready to take control of your mind. We're going to control you.
I like that.
And I arrange the songs. When I do the songs, I can go through all the songs. I say, now the audience is going to respond big time right here. They're going to be mediocre right here. So I know exactly how it's going to go. We're going to do this. I arrange and say, okay, we're going to get a big response right here. Then we're going to pull them back. Then we're going to do this. And because I study the psychology of people in general, because what I do, I put myself out in the audience and say, what would you like to see? And based on that, if it doesn't excite me, then I know it's not going to excite the audience. So I try to do something. If I'm not excited, I'm not going to present it to the audience. So I spend a lot of, and that's why a lot of times the guys, they'll sit back and they'll kind of let me put the show together, because I go in a room by myself before rehearsals, and I'll sit there. I have nobody with me. I don't want nobody around me, and I just sit in the and I start putting the show together. Say, okay, what you feel here? And I would say 90% of the time I've been successful with my ideas. Now I take input from the other guys, but it has to match. It has to represent Rose Royce, and that's the way I do it. I've been pretty successful, and I learned a lot from Norman Whitfield and just watching other artists. Watch what does work and what doesn't work. So you can do that, then then you can make a decent decision.
Absolutely. And hearing you even say that they understand the psychology of it. I think it's easy to just think, well, we go up, we play this song, then we play 4 more, and then we play that song. And, it's really, there's a lot of thought that has to go into it, or that should and often does, for the successful groups. You guys have been around a long time for a reason. You guys have the success you've had for a reason. People respond to you the way they do for a reason. And a huge part of that in a live concert is the journey, right? It's, to your point, it's the peak and the valley, it's the ebb and the flow. It's the, if you just go out and you give them bang, 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 you can wear them out. And if you go out and you go too low, then they're not excited enough.
That's right. And then you have to realize that every audience is not going to be the same. You can go to New York and you may get a bigger response on a particular section of the show. And then you go to Atlanta, Georgia, and then you didn't get quite that. But that's just the way it is. So your key is to keep the same quality. Just keep the same quality all the time. Go out there and do what you do best, and do it as best you can. And that's all you can do. If you go out there and you do the best you can, there's nothing else can be asked of you. But if you go out there and one day you're feeling lazy because sometimes I go there and I don't talk much in the dressing room, but all of a sudden showtime, I just get into this trance. I say, okay, showtime now.
Showtime, baby.
Let's hit it. And I think a lot of good musicians, good entertainers, that's what they do. They
Absolutely.
turn into, I heard Michael Jackson say he turned, and I heard Beyonce say that too. They turn into a whole nother person.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you got to do because it's showtime.
It's showtime.
Yeah.
I've told the story before, and I'll do it really, really short. But I was standing backstage with Chubby Checker, and Chubby Checker was about to go on stage, and Chubby Checker is a big man, and he's, Chubby Checker is in his 80s, and he's not slouched at all. He's not, you don't look at him and feel bad for him, nothing like that. It's still Chubby Checker. But he's a little, he carries himself a little softer, he just kind of, and we were talking backstage, and he was just the kindest man. And it was not lost on me that it was Chubby Checker. The point of the story, we're about 2 minutes from showtime, and he looks at me and he says, Jason, do you mind can I have a minute? And I, no, Chubby, you can't. So I was like, yes, excuse me. I'm sorry, and I run away, and I took about 10 steps back, and I watched him turn to just a dark curtain. And I watched him kind of sway a little bit, and his head was down, and I watched him take some deep breaths, and I watched his shoulders come up, and I watched his head come up, and I watched him, to exactly your point, I watched Chubby Checker become Chubby Checker and walk on stage and do 2 90-minute shows back to back. And
ooh, wow.
But to your point, I say that to emphasize your point that he was just this kind, very, very easygoing man, just chatting. There was no big zhuzh about him. And then all of a sudden, showtime's about to go, and I watch him turn around, and he becomes that. And he walks on stage. It blew my mind. It blew I was just like, it was one of the coolest entertainment moments I've ever had in my life.
Wow. And especially for him, to be the age that he is, to do the long shows, man.
290s. And he goes the whole time. It is not a talky show. It is a go show too.
Wow.
That's great.
I never met him. I never met Chubby out of my entire career. Never met him.
He is absolutely a gentleman. He's just a wonderful, wonderful person. And I hope you do soon. So
I do too.
If you get a chance. So let's transition some gears here as we're nearing the last part of our chat. Let's talk a little bit about you, Kenny Copeland. So I know obviously we're in the midst of a pandemic, and we've got, we're all stuck inside, or at least, socially distanced. What have you found yourself picking up hobby-wise, or what are you doing that you're just filling time with? What is Kenny doing to fill?
Well, to be very honest, I'm into I'm not a pilot. I've taken some lessons, but I have this amazing flight simulator.
Ooh.
Okay. And I got all the toys and bells and whistles that go with it. From the yoke to the pedals to the all that. And I talk to air traffic control. And I got a friend of mine that lives in a different area. He has a flight simulator. So we go on our computers and we can see each other and we can talk to each other. That is my that's my second.
Cool.
But the funny part about it, my wife, my son, nobody else is interested in it but me. So and they know how serious I am, because my wife would come in and she'll say something about it's almost time for dinner. I said, listen, don't talk to me now. She said, oh, you must be landing.
I'm landing the plane.
Yeah, I'm landing. So she know that, and this simulator is no joke. When you landing, it's a certain amount of concentration, because everything is based on the real. So I'm flying this 747, and I'm coming into Los Angeles, and I'm listening to air traffic control, and I said, wait a minute. She's okay. You land, I won't bother you. Now takeoff is easier, but landing is a lot more difficult. So I've been into the simulator. between that and exercising, as far as going to the walk. I like to walk. So they got this park that has a man-made lake not far from, and you got all the ducks and the geese. And I go out there and I do about a mile. When I do it consistently, I can do about 2 miles. but it's so much serenity because everybody else is
Yeah.
walking. The weather's nice.
Yeah.
You see all kind of, you see little gophers, all kind of stuff. So between that, going to the grocery store in my flight simulator, and occasionally, you know, talking to the guys and going in the studio, I'm staying pretty busy.
Well, I mean, it's not every day you get to land a 747, sir. So, uh, and dare I ask if there's any, is there any music out there coming our way? I mean, you guys have been around a while.
There's nothing out there, but I can honestly say that we are definitely in the studio, picking and choosing the songs that we want to, because when you put something out, you want to feel good about it.
Absolutely.
So now that we have a lot of time, we can record something, analyze it, look at it, we don't like it, let's start all over again. You know what I mean? So we just kind of taking our time, doing it right. If somebody come up with something, and we're not opposed to taking outside influence. If somebody bring us something, if we like it, we'll try it. So we just kind of taking our time. And I actually learned that from Dr. Dre. And he said, take your time if you don't like it, because I've watched him do songs 5 and 6 times over and over again. And I learned that from him. And I can say that that's what we are doing now. Just taking it real casual, coming up with songs and all. But when we do come out with something, I think it's going to be great.
And for all of your fans that have been with you guys from the beginning, all the newer fans and all the fans you're surely creating right now within all of our cruises and the folks watching, where can they find that music? How do they keep up with you guys? How do they know what's coming next from Rose Royce?
Follow us on Instagram at Rose Royce Hits, all lowercase. Again, on Instagram at Rose Royce Hits, all lowercase. And you can find out all about us, what we are doing. And I think you'll find it very, very interesting.
That is awesome. And last but not least, I'm going to put you on the spot. You have been married 36 years, you said.
36, been together 41 years, married 36.
Here's the spot. And I don't know if your fantastic wife is in the room and can hear you. Whether she is or isn't, here's your tough question. What's the secret, man? How do you make it happen? 41 years together, 36 years married. What do you want to tell people?
Well, first of all, you got to marry someone that has the same likes and goals that you do. It must be your friend, and you have to enjoy each other, you know. And not only have we been married 36 years and been together 41, we're together 24/7. We live together, we work together. So, you know, a lot of people say, how can you do that? But, you know, I'm gonna be honest. I married my girlfriend, and as of now, we still do things that we used to do 20 and 30 years ago. We don't let the marriage get stagnant. What you do in the beginning, you got to continue to do. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm a family man. I'm a grandfather. Got 3 grandkids, 2 sons.
3 grandkids.
I got 3 grandkids, all boys, and they love.
What do they call you, Kenny? What do they call you? What's your grandpa name?
Grandpa. That's what they call me.
You're just grandpa. Okay, that's good.
Grandpa. I'm grandpa, and
Continue
I got
Sorry.
2 sons. You know what I mean? You know, I think I did it right. You know what I mean? It has to be right and real. Otherwise, it won't last.
You know, it's amen. It's incredibly challenging for people to remain married in a normal life. You know, add into that superstardom, you know, an artist like yourself and the whole 9 yards, and that adds a degree of difficulty that, I mean, you see celebrity marriages, you know, it's, if one goes past 5-10 years, we applaud. We're, oh my goodness, wow, they must really be working at this. You know, the whole 30+, 40+ years thing is a bit of an anomaly. And congratulations, man. That's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, I appreciate that.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you. I so appreciate you taking the time, Kenny, to sit down and talk. And I know, like we were joking about before, I know we don't have a ton of things, but I'm sure I'm keeping you from a takeoff somewhere in Los Angeles, a landing somewhere in Atlanta from some plane in the simulator. Tell your friend I'm sorry I had to steal you for an hour, but I do appreciate it.
You know the good part about it? whenever, because I take my flights are on real time. So if I got a 4-hour flight, all I do is I just save it and come back, and it starts right where I left off.
Perfect. Perfect. Then I don't feel so bad. Then you weren't doing anything anyway. So,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
well, please give our love to your wife and your family. And I know I speak on behalf of Star Vista Live and all the cruise fans out there that we got you slated for upcoming Soul Train cruises and upcoming disco cruises. And I know we cannot wait to get Rose Royce back on that stage and performing. And I'm sure it's something that you're about ready to do again as well.
Oh man, we can't wait. This is one show that we're looking forward to doing, both cruises. Absolutely. It's number one on our list.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again. And to all our fans, all the folks out there watching, thanks for tuning in, having a little bit of fun with us, learning a little bit more about Mr. Kenny Copeland and Rose Royce. Whatever you do, enjoy yourselves. Remember to be smart, be safe, treat each other with kindness and as much empathy as you can. Enjoy yourselves. Be well. We'll see you soon.